Hi everybody, this is our research project. Hannah, Josie, Abby, Carolyn, and Rachel. Alright, and so for our overview, we'll cover our research question, our research scope, along with our literature review, our hypothesis, objectives, our survey plan, our survey design, sample plan, proposed timeline, and outreach techniques. So our research question is, how does financial stress related to living expenses affect academic performance? So for this part of the project, we're going to, our research is going to focus on understanding how financial stress affects just like overall performance in school for students. And for scope of our research, first, we examine how the financial stress leads to students' ability to pay for their everyday needs, whether that's transportation, food, housing, just everyday needs that students need to live. And all these things can become a lot harder to manage because of the pressure behind the finance. Next, this shows how the stress can hurt students, their focus, their performance. All this can lead to a lot of anxiety, distractions, making it a lot harder to pay attention in classes, finish their homework, creating good study habits, and then all this, again, overall leading to their academic performances. And then lastly, we looked at academic engagement involvement. This can be attendance, just again, their focus, motivation, participation, studying habits, all that stuff. Financial worries get in the way, making it a lot harder for students to see the success that they want to see in school, having to focus on just all that financial pressure.
The next thing is our review of literature. And so I'll be giving some examples in research from living expenses, academic performance, and financial stress. So from a research done, it says that room and board rose by 14% more than inflation between the years of 2010 and 2022, and it's continuing to rise. And then the College Board reports that public universities, the in-state students now pay more in room and board than they do in tuition overall. And then for academic performance, there was analysis from a focus group from the National Library of Medicine that said that stress, from students specifically, that stress impedes their ability to succeed academically. And there were two main points from that study, and it said that it impedes their ability to succeed academically and socially among their peers because they get nervous or they feel like they can't attend different events. And then for financial stress, the national survey reveals that 59% of college students consider dropping out due to financial stress, and then 80% report a negative impact on mental health as well. And then many students focus on tuition or student debt, not just living expenses, but our research project focuses on financial stress due to living expenses. And then academic performance is also measured normally, broadly, rather than from students specifically or from surveys, and ours is a survey, which will be helpful to get the knowledge and the information from the students specifically.
Okay, next hypothesis. For our first hypothesis, we took that higher financial stress related to living expenses will increase students' overall stress levels. Living expenses like rent, groceries, transportation, utilities, and healthcare can add up very quickly, especially for students that live off campus. When students are constantly worried about how they're going to pay for basic needs, that stress can build up over time. This can lead to anxiety, emotional strain, and difficulty concentrating, which makes it harder for students to stay focused and manage their responsibilities. For our second hypothesis, is that higher financial stress will lower academic engagement. When students are stressed about money, many of them take on extra work hours in order to cover their expenses. While working can be necessary, working too many hours can reduce time students have for studying, attending class, completing assignments, or participating in academic activities. Because of this, students may become less engaged in their classes and overall academic experience. Our third hypothesis is that lower academic engagement will decrease university retention rates. If students are less engaged in their classes and begin struggling academically, they may start to feel discouraged about continuing their education. Financial pressure combined with academic difficulties can make students question whether staying in school is realistic or affordable. As a result, some students may reduce their course load and take a break from school even drop out completely. And then our objectives and variables. The main objective of this study is to examine how financial stress related to living expenses affect college students' academic performance. Specifically, we want to determine whether there is a measurable relationship between how stressed students feel about their finances and how well they perform academically. Understanding this relationship can help us better understand the challenges students face while trying to balance their financial responsibilities and academic success. Our variables is, the independent variable is financial stress. Financial stress refers to the stress levels students experience because of everyday living expenses such as rent, groceries, transportation, utilities, and healthcare. We would measure this by asking students questions through a survey about how often they worry about paying bills, how many hours they work, and how their financial situation affects their stress levels. Our dependent variable is academic performance. Academic performance can include things like GPA, class participation, assignment completion, and overall academic success. By comparing students' financial stress levels with their academic outcomes, we can analyze whether higher financial stress is associated with lower academic performance.
So for our survey design, we will have mixed question formats. So multiple choice, the Likert scale, and open-ended questions. So we'll have 14 questions. It'll take between 5 and 10 minutes. The reason for having our quantitative questions like multiple choice is because we want to establish quantitative baselines. And a question example of that is like, how many hours do you work per week? Option A would be like between 5 and 10, option B between 10 and 15, and so on and so on. And then the Likert scale, it's gonna measure the intensity and frequency of stress. So for example, how often does financial worry prevent you from focusing on your coursework? And then the open-ended qualitative prompts will allow students to provide some nuanced context that data points might miss, so capturing that human element of financial struggle. The survey is designed to encourage honest and open responses about financial stress, and it also is going to target key stress areas such as rent, groceries, utilities, and transportation. So the essential cost tracking, it focuses on those big four ideas, so rent, groceries, utilities, and transportation, as I mentioned. The academic correlation, it's going to track direct impacts on attendance, textbook accessibility, and cognitive load, and then along with that, holistic well-being. So evaluating the hidden cost of stress such as social isolation, mental health strain, and overall satisfaction with the college experience. And as I mentioned, financial stress can be a sensitive topic, so our wording is designed to encourage honest and comfortable responses. It's going to be phrased in a neutral and empathetic way, so reducing shame and encourage transparent reporting. And then it's going to be assured that this is anonymous, so clear labeling regarding data privacy to ensure students feel safe sharing sensitive budgetary information. We also aim to measure how financial strain impacts academic engagement, including attendance, focus, and overall performance. And finally, the survey evaluates the overall well-being and college satisfaction to understand how financial stress affects students beyond just academics.
Okay, so looking at our sample plan, we plan to look at students age 17 to 30. So 17, we chose the younger end of the scale because any students that are younger than 17 are going to be dual enrollment students. And they're gonna be living at home with their mom and dad, still in high school. So 17, that's kind of the cusp of the entrance into university or your 2-year institution or your trade school, whatever. And then 30, we put a max at for the higher end of the scale because some students take a little bit longer than other students. And we do want to evaluate grad programs and PhD and doctorate because they still have financial stresses. Some people just do undergrad, graduate, and do the whole thing all at once without taking a break to go get a job. We will be targeting people of any gender at any institution that's post-secondary with any major and any other kind of category you can put them under. Our target is about 300 students, not about, it is 300 students. And our recruitment and sampling method will be the snowball sampling method. So what we'll do is we will reach out to our own individual networks and say, hey, we made this survey, we'd love if you would participate and please share it with your friends. And we would encourage them to continue that verbiage going forward. We will do that via social media outreach, email outreach, posters if we can get them approved, posting on our Instagram stories, all of that, because that's where our target audience is. We want to be where they are. Our procedure will be the online survey platform Qualtrics, which we are all using. There will be an informed consent screen, including any risks that they may be subject to, which is not many, the purpose of the study, and that all of their responses will be anonymous and their participation is voluntary. Everything, like I said, will be anonymous and they will have no ties back to their data. There are some limitation and mitigation with this. There's potential peer group bias. We are all involved in our own activities, things, interests, whatever, sports teams. So we're trying to stay away from just sticking to them, but they will be included in our samples. The proposed timeline, week 1, we designed our survey questions. Week 2, we'll be piloting our survey questions to a group of 5 to 10 students randomly picked throughout the university. Week 3, we will look at our pilot, our soft launch, if you will, and adjust survey questions based on feedback from the students. And then in weeks 4 and 5, we will distribute the finalized survey and monitor the responses and make adjustments accordingly. And then week 6, we will compile the final results in our final report.
And so Rachel kind of touched on our outreach techniques. We're going to be using primarily email, social media, and group chats. And we want to stay away from the specific groups, but we all have our respective sports teams or other groups that we're a part of. So we're definitely going to send group chats out to that. And then for those people, they can send them using the snowballing method to more people that they know from high school that are now in college or from anyone at other colleges. And then emails, sending out emails, and through our social media, a lot of us, or pretty much everyone has social media at our age, especially in college, and so that will reach more people from other places, not just from our specific groups, but all of our followings. Thank you if you have any questions.